One of the things driving the Black Lives Matter movement is the fact that black people are treated differently to white people. In this short clip about talking about patients from a minority background and their experience of facing cancer, they show that their experience with healthcare professionals may have been tainted by stereotypes from those healthcare professionals, and that affects the interaction that patients have with that professional, and that might affect the medical treatment that they receive.
The original surgeon that I saw, this was when I had newly been diagnosed, so it was quite a stressful time. I had a couple of meetings with him which left me feeling very uncomfortable. My husband happens to have his own business. He works, very hard. He's got a good job. He'd taken the day off to come to the hospital with me. It was very cold, so he happened to be wearing a hoodie. My husband happens to be black, so we walked in. He was a black guy in his hoodie. I was an Asian lady. We just felt straight away that the surgeon was making assumptions about us.
With the consultant, when I went in with pumps. I think I had leggings on and a little bomber jacket. And I remember thinking to myself, was it the way that I dressed? He was surprised by the questions I was asking. So I just felt as though he had a perception about who I was. Was it because I was a woman? I don't know. I felt perhaps more it's because I was black. What I don't need is when I'm being told I've got cancer, for people to have a prejudgment about me, and that's what I felt.
We had loads of questions because it was all very raw. We'd just had the diagnosis, but he was very patronising, and he actually rolled his eyes a couple of times when we asked questions, so we just felt we couldn't speak to him. This was the person who should have been helping us at that time, should have been our partner, if you like, in discussing my care, in discussing options, decisions that I had to make about treatment. And so it had a huge impact on me in the first few weeks after diagnosis.
This video is really talking about the way that our minds work and that we are all fundamentally flawed. In every interaction that we have with people, we bring our own experiences, our own prejudices, our own stereotypes, and our own lens on the way that we see the world. I wanted to give you 2 mind games just to help you think and introduce the concept to you about our minds being flawed. So here's the first one. A father is driving his son in the car, but unfortunately the car crashes and the father dies. The son is okay, but needs emergency surgery because he's injured. He's taken to the hospital, and when he gets to hospital, he's rushed to the emergency theatre. But when he gets there, the surgeon says, "I cannot operate, this is my son." Who is the surgeon? And many people, when they encounter this mind game, they think that the surgeon is a stepfather or some other male relative. However, we know that the surgeon is the mother, which would be the logical answer. Because many of us, and myself included growing up, had a stereotype, and it was taught to us repeatedly to identify the man as the doctor dressed in healthcare uniform and the woman dressed in healthcare uniform was the nurse. And that hopefully is changing as we have both men and women who are doctors and nurses. How about another one? I'll give you a second mind game. A bat and a ball cost £1.10, but the bat costs £1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? So many people thinking about this mind game will often say, take £1 away from £1.10 and you'll get 10 pence. So the ball costs 10 pence. However, the ball costs 5 pence. And that's because our brain often makes very quick assumptions about the way the world works and tries to come to a very quick answer, but hasn't really thought through what's actually happening. And in this clip, Trevor Noah talks about how we associate accidents with different things. The actual things that they're associated with often don't really have that much grounding in truth.
The French, the most romantic language in the world. No, the accent is romantic as well, but it is. It's funny how every accent has its own connotation to it. Speak with a French accent, you are sexy. How are you, ladies? And then there's some accents just have no sex appeal to them at all. Like the Russian accent. There's nothing sexy about it. Everything the Russians say sounds dangerous and menacing. Doesn't matter what they say, because they've got that thing. Yes, I'm Russian. Go to kill you, break you, destroy your family. Like, even if Russians say nice things, it still sounds dangerous. They still go, yes, fluffy rabbits and teddy bears. What? You know what's weird is I find the Russian accent frightening, but not the Russian language. It's the strangest thing ever. There's certain languages I find frightening. There's certain accents that throw me off. You know, for instance, I find Arabic frightening as a language. You know, it just has that thing in it. But that could be saying anything. We're talking about Candy Crush. But it's because we've watched all those movies, all those TV shows. Every time you see Arabic, some bad shit goes down. It's never something cool or sexy, you know? It's never like, it's never that. So the language is frightening, but Russian, for some reason, I don't find frightening at all. Yeah.
So what I'm talking about is the way our minds work, and that's commonly described as bias. Bias is a support or preference for something in a particular way which might be unfair. Our minds are incredibly complex. We process so much information every day. Google estimate that we process 11 million pieces of information every moment. I'm not entirely sure how they calculated that, but it probably would make sense that we do process lots of information. But consciously, we can only process a small amount. We can only process perhaps maybe 32 pieces of information every moment. That means if we're only processing a small amount of information consciously, that means unconsciously we must be making lots and lots of decisions in order to make sense of the world. To classify this, many people think about thinking fast and thinking slow. This is the work of an economist called Daniel Kahneman, who described type 1 processes and type 2 processes. So type 1 processes are these fast processes that we make, these quick assumptions that we make, and these are often based on experience, things that we learn, things that we encounter. And then we have the type 2 processes, which are a bit slower. And these learned processes, these quick assumptions, are really, really important, and especially important to our ancestors. For example, if we were hunting for animals and we did see a cat, if we had to get particularly close to the cat to work out whether that cat was dangerous and could potentially eat us, we would die, and that's particularly relevant to our survival. Similarly, when humans were in tribes, it made sense to stereotype people based on the way they look to whether we could trust them or not, because that's the way that humans often had survived. As well as this, wherever you're watching this video from, whether you're standing up, you're sitting down, you aren't really conscious of the temperature of the air, the perhaps tone of my voice, your feet on the ground, or your bottom on the chair, for example, until I talked about them just this very second. Which means that your brain is doing a lot of unconscious processing about the world that we live in. So there is a way to be tested for the assumptions that you make, and one of these ways is the Harvard Implicit Association Test. And you can do it, you can work out whether you're prejudiced to men or women, so looking at gender, or potentially even race, for example. But perhaps there should be a warning on the test, because just because you have prejudices doesn't mean that you can't unlearn them. We can unlearn the processes that we have learned if they are wrong. The test is not a cure for racism. It's potentially a way of understanding how our processes work, but it's not a way to get rid of racism from society by getting people to do the test and then learn from the test. It just might be a way of us understanding how our minds work. Many people often, if they have a particular viewpoint, they provide data or information to back up that viewpoint, instead of perhaps looking at all the information and understanding there's potentially 2 points of view. And that can affect healthcare settings, for example, when making a diagnosis. We don't often consider other diagnoses that might be relevant at that point. One of the other ways that our mind can be flawed is that we often treat people differently, particularly if they remind us of someone that we know, and that could be in a good way or a bad way, as well as being interrupted or distracted when you're making a critical decision. And that has implications for healthcare, but often in different parts of life. I'll leave a link in the description below to one of my colleagues who goes through the way that human thinking is flawed in the description below. Perhaps one way of making sense of the Black Lives Matter movement is to consider the way that other people think about you and the prejudices and stereotypes that they might have about you. And then appreciate that perhaps for black people, many people have stereotypes about them and profile them in a way that discriminates against them in the workplace, in education, in the judicial system, in many aspects of life. And it's really important to understand that this is not an attack on any particular group of people. This is a time to learn. And when it comes to Black Lives Matter, you might feel that you are challenging your own stereotypes and you're feeling uncomfortable just sitting there thinking that we categorize people into other groups. One point to be made is that this discomfort that you feel is a choice that you should make. And it's not a choice that black people do have, where they are constantly stereotyped and racially profiled in a society, in the workplace, in healthcare, for example. And it's time for all of us to appreciate and understand that we are all prejudiced and we must face our own prejudices. We must call ourselves and others out. Please take the time to educate yourself about why Black Lives Matter